Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bet Right Sports Betting Podcast presented by the Six Pack Coverage Media Network. It's your host, Jeff Rowell, here with my co-host, Andrew Tanzi, coming at you to break down everything you need to know for Week 15 of the NFL season. We are slowly inching our way towards the end of a fantastic regular season. We're having a ton of fun here. We're going to try and keep it going through the last few weeks of the season. How did Week 14 treat you?
It was just another middling week. I feel like I've been treading water the last few weeks. I need just one of those monster weeks we had earlier in the season. I hit a 3 legs of a money line underdog round robin that kind of saved my week. But other than that, it was just okay. How about you?
It was actually terrible. Now that I think about it, I lost a lot of money this week, but I'm in a great mood. I feel like I've moved on, so I don't really want to hash it out too much. But I guess we'll get into it here with our recap from last week and rip off some of the band-aids. Let's start on our favorite bets of the week, where you were on Las Vegas Raiders -6, and I was right there with you.
We knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
But through 3 quarters, we did it. It was like the easiest win ever. They were dominating in all phases of the game. They should have had a 30 spot, and then they just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And then, of course, we all know what happens at the end of the game. That was only a loss that the Las Vegas Raiders could deliver.
Yeah, you're watching the game, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just saying to myself, this is just the definition of a team that is taking an opponent for granted and a team that is playing comfortable, because they threw not 20 passes the entire game. It was just,
it felt like 4. I mean, every play was a run to Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, and Jacobs wasn't having a good game. He averaged like 3.5 yards per carry. And
yes.
It was just, they got an early 2-score lead, and they were like, okay, that's it. We can just waste the rest of the clock. And like, the Raiders are a team that's supposed to have their back up against the wall, fighting to, win out and make the playoffs. And I've just never seen a team in their position come out and play so comfortable in a game. So just terrible coaching job in that one. So yeah, very disappointing. And then you have Baker with 2 days of preparation in an entire new offense, just a basic vanilla offense,
no receivers,
and somehow they're 98 yards. I know there was some questionable penalties in there, but regardless, never should have been in that position.
Yep. Unbelievable. So you dropped to 6-7 on your favorite bets of the year. I am also at 6-7. Me and our guest from last week, Dave, had the Seahawks and Panthers over 43.5. Felt really good about that. Was never really in question. Stalled out a little bit in the third quarter, but we got there. Long shots of the week in that same game, God. Seahawks and Panthers. D'Onta Foreman, all he does is score touchdowns. What happened there? Where was the touchdown?
Just brutal. He gets the 2 goal line carries, doesn't get in, and then they bring in Chuba Hubbard. He runs it right in. And then later in the game, it's Blackshear that gets the carry on the goal line. Just absolutely.
That was the real one that was just like the knife to the heart. I mean,
because I honestly, so it was the whole drive, because we were on that drive, we were waiting for D'Onta Foreman over rush yards, and it's all Chuba Hubbard. He's running the ball well, fine. But then Chuba goes out, and I'm like, okay, here comes Foreman. But no, it's freaking Blackshear. And so I'm like, okay, Foreman must be hurt. But no, he came in the next drive. Luckily, he hit his over on rush yards. But yeah, that was just brutal to not get the touchdown.
Yeah, so you dropped to 4-8 on that one, and the Panthers money line was never in doubt. So it was unfortunate Foreman couldn't come through. I took a loss in mine as well, dropped to 3-8. Devontae Adams, 100 yards, a touchdown in the Raiders money line. It felt like every time they threw Devontae Adams the ball, he made a ridiculous catch in Jalen Ramsey's face. The problem was they never threw him the ball. I think he had 1 target in the entire second half, 0 yards. He had like 2 catches for 40 yards each in the first half, and then did absolutely nothing. So incredibly frustrating. We already talked about the Raiders game plan enough in that one. And then Dave, guest on the show last week, took a brutal loss on his long shot. Tyler Huntley, 40 rush yards in the Ravens money line. Huntley, I think, was at 29 yards at halftime, gets hurt early in the third quarter. The Ravens win the game. That was never really in doubt. And I mean, that one definitely would have hit. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. Anthony Brown comes in, and tough loss.
Yeah, the QB injuries this week were just crazy.
Oh, man. Yeah, capped off by Kyler Murray on Monday night. I mean, geez, it was a rough week. Yeah. Prop sheet, another frustrating week. This sucks. 4-5 on the week. I think we had Tyler Huntley on the prop sheet, so that was one that lost because of an injury. Chris Godwin somehow doesn't get a catch in the final 10 minutes. He doesn't play the final drive. Tyreek Hill catches a 50-yard bomb and still goes under his receiving total. I mean, there were just some things on there that was like, and we even avoided some landmines. We talked about DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore that we each liked, and we didn't even put them on the prop sheet because we wanted to avoid them, and it still didn't work out.
Yeah. Tough year for props.
101-96, still hanging on to our above 500 record. We'll see if we can make that happen throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah.
All right, heroes and zeros of the week before we turn the page to week number 15. Who do you have as your hero of the week from week number 14?
Yeah, so I actually ended up on the Jaguars spread and money line. So I got to go with Trevor Lawrence, 30 of 42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, en route to a convincing win over the Tennessee Titans. So Trevor Lawrence bouncing back for a pretty horrific performance the week before. So that was one of my bigger hits of the week there. So Trevor Lawrence, my hero of the week.
It's one of my bigger losses. I bet the Titans when I thought Trevor Lawrence wasn't going to play with a toe injury, and I got stuck in that position. And yeah,
tough.
At least you profited. My hero of the week, I went with Dan Campbell. Can't get enough of the Detroit Lions. Restore the roar. The Lions are coming for that final wild card spot. Plus 305 to make the playoffs out there right now. If you want to hop in, I still think that can happen. They're making up some ground. The Seahawks and Giants are both floundering down the stretch here. The door is wide open. And we have the awesome clip of Dan Campbell getting the crowd pumped up and getting the wave, watching the wave go as Penei Sewell's catching the game clinching pass on 3rd and 5 or whatever to seal the game. Just a truly incredible gem of a coach that we need to appreciate and stop hating on like some of us try to do on this podcast.
But yeah, I can't give a guy credit when he tells me he doesn't even know the play call on the biggest 3rd down of the entire game because he's distracted by the wave. I mean,
the offensive coordinator's calling the plays. He's pumping up the crowd. It's a team effort. Everyone knows their job.
Yeah, okay.
All right, what's your zero of the week from last week? I'm sure we have 2 of them that are the same.
Yeah, it's got to be the Kansas City Chiefs defense to allow
never mind
28 points to that offense. My mind was like the Chiefs went up, I think it was 27-3.
Yeah.
So yeah, the offense didn't do much in the second half, but 27 points against the Denver Broncos should be enough to cover almost any reasonable spread.
It was the whole point of our handicap.
I still, looking back, I just don't know how the Broncos were going to get 28 points. So pathetic effort from the Kansas City Chiefs defense. Definitely concerning moving forward as you head into the playoffs with that defense. I know their offense is great, but you're allowing 28 points to the Broncos doesn't bode well for some of the matchups you'll see on the road to the Super Bowl.
I mean, Russell Wilson gets hurt with a concussion, and they're still giving up points to Brett Rippon. I mean, it was like
crazy.
Couldn't make it up. My zero of the week, I don't know if it's more Josh McDaniels or it's me and you for betting on the Las Vegas Raiders. I feel like you could go either way, but I think we've talked about them enough. Just the incredibly conservative job that they did on that Thursday night football game to somehow lose the game outright was pretty remarkable. And I can't wait to have my position on the Raiders again this week that I already have. So it should be fun.
What was your biggest lesson you learned last week? I know what it is, but I just want to know if you know what it is.
You know what my biggest lesson was?
Yes, I do.
I mean, there's a lot. It's just like
you don't lay over 2 touchdowns in an NFL game. That's what it is. I was getting berated for telling you guys not to take the Dallas Cowboys and the Texans. And yes, everyone, I did end up with a bet on the Houston Texans. So you and Dave can both take a long walk on a short pier because you don't lay that many points in an NFL game.
Can I tell you something about this week that I clearly didn't learn my lesson? Apparently, I bet the Chiefs on the look ahead last week at -14. I don't even remember doing it.
At least it's a flat 2 touchdowns.
Okay, so I'm good. It's just over 2 touchdowns. That's where we draw the line.
I mean, even 14 is a little excessive, but especially
it feels like a really dumb bet.
Especially with the defense. I feel like you have some bad look ahead lines this week. You got a little carried away with some of these.
Do I? No, I think some of them are pretty good.
You have the Steelers.
The Steelers one's a quarterback injury. Like, what am I going to do with that one? I also have the Lions at +3 and the Bengals at -2.5. So, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, ready to move the page here?
Yeah.
Turn the page, move the page, whatever we're doing. All right, Thursday Night Football, NFC West divisional battle, San Francisco 49ers against the Seattle Seahawks. This one is down to 3 at some places, 3.5 at others, juice depending. Over under is 43.5. No real weather issues in this game. Deebo Samuel out for the Niners. Eric Armstead questionable. And then Kenneth Walker sounds like he is going to play for the Seahawks in their backfield. Brock Purdy's first ever road game on a short week in a hostile environment, going to the home of the 12th man. On top of that, he's also been limited in practice all week with an oblique injury. Sounds like he's going to play, but definitely a tough spot for the rookie. But the Seahawks kind of been trending in the wrong direction. Lose to the Panthers, barely beat the Rams, lose to the Raiders, lose to the Bucs. Defense has been atrocious. What do you have here? Are you riding Brock Purdy and the Niners as the overall better team, or is this a spot where the Seahawks get back on track at home?
Who's the backup to Purdy? I guess it's Josh. Is it Josh
Josh
Johnson?
Johnson.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, so I'm not gonna ride Brock Purdy per se, but I am gonna take the 49ers here by going with the
So you are going to run.
by going with the Seattle Seahawks team total under
Ah,
20.5 points. San Francisco hasn't allowed more than 17 points in 6 straight weeks. Seattle didn't have any offensive points in the first matchup between these teams. And the only other two defenses they have played that are ranked even remotely close to San Francisco was Denver, who's fifth in DVOA, where they scored 17 points in week one, and Tampa
what's a
Bay.
week one? Get out of
I'm just
here.
saying, and Tampa Bay, they scored 16 points. So the only other defense is even comparable to them. They didn't really, they were a field goal or more away from scoring 20 points. So, I'm very close to pulling the trigger on the 49ers, and it's not getting wrapped up in this Brock Purdy love per se, but it's one, you're betting on the defense, and two, I just don't see a world where this defense can hold up against the San Francisco run game and Christian McCaffrey. So that it's just terrifying to me. And then you have Geno Smith, 3 straight games now with interceptions going against the best defense he's seen all season. So there's definitely been some red flags with the Seattle team over the last few weeks. They're starting to kind of show some weaknesses that I expected to see earlier in the season. So to me, this is kind of two teams trending in different directions here, even with Brock Purdy at quarterback. I just don't think Purdy has to do a ton in this matchup. So yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people making the case, like rookie quarterback on the road, short week, like you said, in a hostile environment. But I just don't see him having to do a ton in this offense. So right now, it's just a Seattle team total under for me, but I might get there with 49ers by game time.
Yeah, I think I have similar thoughts to you. I haven't bet anything here yet. I think I'm leaning to the 49ers. We're getting some threes on the board. Maybe if -3, -110 appears, I'll hop in. Just because, kind of like you said, I don't think Purdy's going to have to do a ton. I just really worry that they're going to be able to run Christian McCaffrey for however many yards they want to against this defense, because the Seahawks just haven't been able to stop anybody. And a lot of these teams that they're giving up points to, like the Panthers, the Rams, I mean, they're not even close to the same level as the Niners, even with Purdy. So it's probably going to be Niners or pass, but it may just be a pass for me because I don't love laying points on the road with Purdy.
Fair enough.
Prop looks for you in this one?
Yeah, it's hard not to take a long look at Christian McCaffrey. 14 carries for 120 yards last week. I think I saw him out there at 79.5. So you got to imagine. I mean, 14 carries last week was more just a product of the game script and them being up by a ton. So I could easily see him, if this game's close, getting 20 carries in this one. So
yeah, I agree. 78.5 right now on FanDuel. I bet that earlier today. The Seahawks defense is 26th against the run in DVOA on the year, and that's been trending down over the last 4 weeks. They're down to 30th overall against the run. If we think this is going to be a closer game with the Niners playing from ahead, that probably leads to more Christian McCaffrey carries too. So I like it. All right, let's kick it off with our first game on the Saturday slate here. 3 games on Saturday. Let's start with the Colts and the Vikings. Vikings are laying 4 to 4.5 points at home in Minnesota. The over-under is 48.5. Colts coming off a bye. Vikings expected to get left tackle Christian Darrisaw back, and safety Harrison Smith is questionable. Is this a spot to buy low on the Vikings? Should we continue to fade them as they're still getting too much credit in the market? Where are you at with this one?
I don't know, man. Like the Colts have the 32nd ranked offense in DVOA. So you think this could be a matchup where you don't have to worry much about this Vikings defense and secondary, but I find myself still a little bit concerned. The Vikings aren't getting pressure, which is one of the massive weaknesses of the Colts, is allowing pressure and allowing defensive lines to get to Matt Ryan. And I also think there's a pretty good chance that the Colts could have some success on the ground with Jonathan Taylor here. And you look at the Vikings over the past few weeks, 34 points to the Lions, 500 yards and 22 points to Mike White and the Jets. Arguably should have been more if the Jets could have converted in the red zone. And 26 points to the Patriots, whose offense has just looked absolutely atrocious outside of that. So definitely worrisome here. And then we already know, no matter who it's against, the Vikings are going to play a close game. So it just feels like a game where the Colts could stick around. If this one took on some late money and somehow got up to 6, I would probably start looking the Colts. I don't think it'll get there, but I think there has to be a buy point on the Colts here. But it's hard for me to lay this many points with the Vikings right now with their defense.
Yeah, I think for me at the current market, it's probably Vikings money line. So I have them in a parlay with the Eagles and then the Bengals as well in the money line. I think that they're likely to win the game, but they're not really a team that we love. to lay points with. If we saw some movement here, Vikings -3 would definitely be a bet for me. 3.5, I'd probably have to consider it. So right now it's Vikings or pass. Going to wait and see if I can get a little bit of a better number. But worst case, I'll probably just stick with the money line. You can find like a -195 out there right now, which I think is okay if you put it with another favorite that you really like.
I don't know. I still just think there's more regression coming for this Vikings team. Like, to me,
even they can still win this game. I don't think they're going to lose.
Look, I'm not. I don't think they're going to lose, but I think there's a world where the Colts could win this game. Like, I just don't see the Vikings blowing. I don't see the Vikings being able to blow them out.
I think they could.
I don't know.
If the Colts offense is just, I don't know. Maybe the Vikings defense is just so bad that it doesn't matter. But
look how bad the Patriots have looked. Honestly,
I know it's a good point.
How great have the Patriots, or how great did the Patriots look against the Vikings?
Yeah.
Against everyone else, it's just terrible.
That's a fair point. It's a concern. I do think Darisaw back matters a lot for the offense. I'll be able to give Cousins some more time. Maybe Jefferson will have 500 yards instead of 200 this week.
200 yards and they lose the game. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Prop looks for you in this one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take a look at Michael Pittman, Minnesota defense, 27th versus the pass, 26 in DVOA versus wide receiver ones. He only had 4 targets last week, but outside of that, he's been pretty consistent in the target department. 11 the week before for seven receptions, 61 yards, 6 catches for 75 yards the week before that, 7 catches. So I'm probably going to be looking at his receptions. It's at 5.5 right now, -120. So I'll probably be looking there.
I think that's a little high.
Okay.
I don't mind the idea, but I don't know. This Colts offense is always a little tough to predict. Sometimes they just want to run the ball. Other times they just throw it to the tight end 75 times. I mean, I don't know.
That's fair.
I bet Justin Jefferson over receiving yards. I think it's 92.5. The last I saw it, he's been over this in 8 of its last 10 games. Colts are better against the run than the pass, and they're 27th to opposing wide receiver ones. And the Vikings offense is basically just Justin Jefferson right now. So
the other one I was looking for, I don't know if it's posted yet, was Jonathan Taylor rush attempts. If
I saw yards, I don't know if attempts was there.
Okay, so it's 20.5 on DraftKings at even money. So I'd want to see if I can get a 19.5. He's had at least 20
19.5 on FanDuel.
Okay, so he's had at least 20 carries in 4 straight games. So yeah, kind of like you said, I mean, if you don't like the Pittman play, I think this is somewhat of a good pivot. If you think this game's going to be close, they're going to hand the ball to Taylor.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe you see, depending on how you think the game plays out, you take either Pittman over receptions or Taylor over rush attempts. I could see that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move along here to the Saturday afternoon game. This is going to be our debate of the week in the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns. Browns are laying 2.5 to 3 points, depending on where you're looking. The over-under is 37. For the purposes of this debate, we will debate at 3, as I'm a gracious host and feel bad because I keep beating you in these debates. Forecast in the game, low 30s, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds, chance of snow, brutal day in Cleveland. Big injury notes for the Ravens, the quarterback position. Lamar almost certainly going to be out. Tyler Huntley in concussion protocol. He is progressing through the protocol, but it's still a Saturday game, so it's kind of up in the air. I think he probably goes.
He practiced in full today, yeah. Like these concussion protocols are so inconsistent. I feel like I didn't think it was
very weird.
I didn't think there was any shot he was going to play this week.
And same thing with Kenny Pickett. He practiced in full today too, and I thought that he was almost definitely out. So I don't really know what to think anymore, but I would assume he's playing, but you never really know with this. Yeah. If not, it'll be Anthony Brown. On the Brown side, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out, and then they put like everyone that's good on the injury report this week. They're all expected to play, but Amari Cooper, David Njoku, David Bell, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, all questionable but expected to play. So we'll see what happens there. I will let you kick off the case with the Baltimore Ravens and why you're on that.
Yeah, it's just really it's kind of similar to the Ravens and Steelers game last week, where I just want the points in this matchup. We have a low total, ugly divisional matchup we're expecting. You already said there's probably going to be some weather in this one. And I just want to keep fading this Browns team when they're getting – I feel like they are getting extra points for Watson being the quarterback when I still truly believe it is a downgrade from what we got from Brissett. I've laid out the numbers last week that they were a top 10 offense, top 10 passing offense with Jacoby Brissett. And in 2 weeks of seeing Deshaun Watson, I can say confidently that's not the case right now. And when the Ravens have Huntley and these backup quarterbacks in the game, they have a way of making these games ugly. And every game now with Huntley starting has been 3 points or less margin at the end, whether they win or lose. We saw Dobbins get going on the ground last week, which is something they should be able to build off against the Browns defense, who's one of the worst in the league. And then, maybe a coincidence, but 2 games with Watson in there, Chubb hasn't really been able to get it going on the ground. And now you're facing a Ravens defense that's top 10 in DVOA against the rush, top 10 in adjusted line yards. And to me, I don't think there's one thing in this game that you can point to a significant advantage for the Browns here. I just want the points in this game. That's probably going to be an ugly one. So give me the field goal.
Okay. I think now is a good time to buy Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. Obviously looked horrendous against the Houston Texans. He was 27th in EPA in that week in his first game back. Last week against the Bengals, I think his stats were a little bit misleading. He finished 26 of 42, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Also ran for 33 yards on the ground. But I think there were some plays in that game and like the high leverage moments that all went against the Browns. They had the 4th and inches from like the 30-yard line where they bring in Jacoby Brissett and throw like a fade to Donovan Peoples-Jones 30 yards down the field. That didn't help. Then they have 4th and goal from like the 3-yard line. He hits Donovan Peoples-Jones in the face in the corner of the end zone, bounces off his face mask and drops a touchdown pass. If he catches that, I think we feel a little bit different. He was 12th in EPA among all quarterbacks last week, so he's definitely trending up. The Bengals defense is pretty good. And I also think there's a case to be made that the Ravens defense might be a little bit overvalued just based on the recent schedule. They played Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. Then they played a Jags offense that actually had a pulse and allowed 28 points and lost the game outright. Then they play an anemic Denver Broncos and Mitch Trubisky and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think maybe this Ravens defense might be a little bit overrated. I think this is the week that Nick Chubb finally gets going on the ground because the Browns need him so bad. And I think Watson gives the Browns the element of being able to throw the ball, whereas I just don't see that with the Ravens right now. Even when Tyler Huntley was in there last week, I think he had 88 passing yards in like 2.5 quarters. And I'm not expecting J.K. Dobbins to run for another 120 yards. The Browns defense has been trending up a little bit. So I just think this is a time to buy the Browns, even if you're not getting the greatest discount. I still think they're going to win this game, and I think they can cover it. And for full transparency, we're debating at 3. I bet a little bit of -2.5, and I bet the Browns money line. So if you side with me, you can probably find a 2.5 on the Browns. If you side with Rue, you can find a Ravens +3.
And I'm waiting for 3.5. I'm going to see if
you're not going to get. Well, depending on the quarterback, but if Huntley's in, I doubt. There's no way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's not guaranteed he's in, so I'm going to wait. If Anthony Brown's in, I think I'm going to get a 3.5.
Yeah, you will.
So, and I'll still take it with Anthony Brown. So,
good luck. God bless. Prop looks for you in this one.
Yeah, nothing in this one.
Nothing in this one for me either. Can we agree that Mark Andrews is officially dead, regardless of the quarterback?
yeah, he's dead.
Right. I think we've tried to buy him low like 3 weeks ago.
I ended up not betting it. I didn't bet.
Oh, good. Okay.
I was really close to, but I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna let it.
I think he finished with like 18 yards or something.
Yeah, not good.
All right, let's move right along here to the Saturday night game. Miami Dolphins against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC East. The Bills are 7 to 7.5 point home favorites. The over under is 40. Oh, it's ticked up a little bit, 43.5 right now. Jeff Wilson likely going to miss this game. Teron Armstead, Eric Rowe questionable for the Dolphins, and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Sounds like they're both going to play, but they definitely look a little banged up. And then for the Bills, Ed Oliver and Matt Milano questionable, and they just signed Cole Beasley off the street to try and help this receiving core that is really struggling. Do you have a play here on this game, Dolphins or Bills?
No, so there's a few games this week that I'm somewhat lost on, and I feel like a case could be made either way. But so like after the 49ers game, it was a concern, about Tua moving forward against great defenses, but then he lays an absolute egg against the Chargers defense, who's already
a bigger concern now.
Already not that great to begin with, and they were missing their arguably their 2 best defensive players. Yeah. But then you have the Bills on the other side, who I'm not necessarily worried about, but it was an ugly game against the Jets. Josh Allen hasn't looked great all year. And to me, this just seems like a lot of points. Like 7.5 points is a lot of points. But then I'm like, okay, the Dolphins defense stinks. And then there's a weather factor. So I'm like, I'm getting over a field goal. So I don't know. I'm all over the place in this one. I've been debating if I feel comfortable with the Bills and teasers. But if it's going to be another like ugly weather type of game, like we saw that have, maybe that was more of a credit to the Jets defense last week than the weather, but
could have been both. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like, I don't know what's the latest weather forecast that you saw.
So, I probably should have mentioned that. So right now the forecast is high 20s, very high likelihood of snow, and like 10 to 15 mile an hour winds.
Yeah, so I mean, when it's wind, like wind's one of the biggest concerns, and then it'll depend on what the snow is. But if it's like heavy snow coming down, I almost, in a matchup like this, I'll blindly take 7.5 points, like over a field goal. Like what we saw last week with the Bills was just ugly. I mean, they were lucky to get out of that with a win, let alone even come close to covering the spread. So, yeah, I got nothing on this game right now. I'm a little bit befuddled.
All right, let me tell you about this one. I haven't bet it yet. I think I'm going to end up on the Bills here. That I am incredibly comfortable with them in teasers, money line parlays. This is probably my favorite teaser spot on the entire board. I'm waiting to see if we get a 6.5, but I still think 7 would be a bet for me. I don't love laying points with the Bills, but this is an absolutely brutal spot for the Miami Dolphins. This is their third straight game on the road. They played at San Francisco, at the Chargers. Now they have to come back to the East Coast, go up to Buffalo. This is a team from Miami going outdoors into the elements. Their offense is completely banged up. Jeff Wilson's going to miss the game. Mostert can't really handle a full workload. Jalen Waddle hasn't looked 100% in about a month. Tyreek Hill's on the injury report with a hamstring injury. The Bills defense is finally getting healthy. Tre'Davious White's playing a full complement of snaps. They pretty much have all their guys out there. Matt Milano sounds like he's going to play. This is a team that had heaters on the bench last week. I don't know how much this matters, but it was 55 degrees in LA and they had heaters on the bench of the Chargers game. Now they're going to play in the mid-20s in a snowstorm, and you're telling me that's not going to be a problem? Tua couldn't complete a pass last week, and now he's going up against a better defense in the elements. Like, for me, this is Dolphins team total under 17.5. This is Bills money line, Bills and teasers, and I'll probably lay points with the Bills as well, even though I don't love their offense. I just think this is an absolutely brutal spot for the Dolphins, and I think their offense could put up like 6 points here.
I think you sold me on the teaser leg. I'm worried, like, not worried. I don't really care, to be honest with you, but Tua looks like he has the yips. Honestly, some of these throws, it's not even close. Like, you look at his stats and you're like, oh, he didn't really have any interceptions or anything. I don't know. Did he throw an interception? I don't remember. But
he was regardless, 10 for 28.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Throwing the ball near a like no one can intercept it because the pass was so bad.
That's what I mean. The pass were so far away that not even a defender could get to them. Yeah. And he had 145 yards and 60 of them were on one play to Tyreek Hill. It's incredible. Yeah, so, I think you definitely sold me on the teaser. Like, I don't know. The
Bills are going to win this game. There is a 100% chance of winning this game. I feel.
Yeah, and then I keep I keep just going back to, like, as bad as not even as bad, but like, the Bills offense hasn't looked impressive, but they're still scoring like 20 plus points in every single game. I mean,
a bad game for the Bills offense is like 20 to 23 points.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
that's enough in this game, honestly. If they get to 23, I think they have a really good chance of winning and covering.
Yeah. All right. I think I'll definitely tease them. I don't know if I'm there with the points. If it dipped below a touchdown, then maybe
6.5, I'd have to bet it. 7, I'm going back and forth.
Yeah.
Props, I'm definitely going to look at, we just talked about Tua. Let's look at under pass yards, under pass completions, see where the numbers are. But I think we just
what's it at this week? Like, are we going to be like low 200s or?
I really don't know. I'll see if it's posted now. But he was 18 for 33 against the Niners defense, like we said, 10 for 28 last week. So right now we're seeing 242.5 passing yards on DraftKings.
Ooh, I kind of like the under on that.
That seems about 50 yards too high.
Yeah, I
mean, honestly, if there's going to be a snowstorm,
yeah, I'm with you.
All right, betting Tua under pass yards as we speak.
Is that the best number on DraftKings? Did you look everywhere else?
Yes, it is. Caesars has 241.5, and there's more juice. So
okay, all right, I'm in.
All right, 2 under pass yards. Any other looks for you in this one for props? That Diggs was like really low. He opened in the mid to high 60s, but I still don't think I can get there. He's been like non-existent the last few weeks.
Yeah, it's been real weird. I think it's just kind of a product of the way Josh Allen's playing. And he only had, how many yards did he have last week? He didn't have more than 200 yards last week. So
yeah, and they've been running the ball. It's just the offense has been weird.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen the last few weeks, 147 yards, 223 yards. 253 the week before that, but then 197. So but no other prop looks in this one.
All right, let's move along to the NFC South here. Interesting game with the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints. Both teams coming off the bye. The Saints are 4-point home favorites. The over-under is 42.5 here. Marcus Mariota out for the Falcons. Rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder coming in out of Cincinnati to make his first career NFL start. And then Marshawn Lattimore and Cam Jordan questionable for the Saints. And they did announce that Andy Dalton will, of course, remain the starting quarterback for the Saints because he's been so incredibly impressive that we would not want to see Jameis here. I grabbed the Saints last week at -3 when the news that Ridder was starting came out. I've kind of been going back and forth on this game so many times. Like, I think the Saints are a much better team, but they're also so poorly coached and they're laying this. It feels like they're laying too many points, but it's also hard to know because Desmond Ridder could be horrendous. He could be competent. He could be better than Marcus Mariota. I don't really know. Do you have a strong take on this one at the current market?
Yeah, I don't see it changing the Falcons offense too much. They're still going to be a run first offense, and the Saints defense hasn't been what we've been used to the last few years against the run. They're only ranked 21st in DVOA. They're 12th against the pass, so they're actually better against the pass. And they're not getting any pressure. All year they've been bottom 5 in pressure rate. They're 4th worst right now, which is huge for the 20 to 25 passes Ridder's probably going to be asked to throw in this game. And then the Falcons defense is a concern. And you look at the Saints schedule, they've actually kind of had their way with some of these lesser defenses throughout the season. They actually scored 27 against this Falcons defense in week 1, 25 versus Minnesota, 39 versus Seattle, 34 versus Arizona, and 27 versus the Rams. So, and last week, or the Saints last game, they should have scored probably 28 points against the Bucs, but they had all those drop passes. So you kind of see the Saints have the ability on offense to put up these points, which is definitely a little bit concerning. I don't know, but the unknown with Ridder and some uncertainty as to what Saints team I'm going to get is just enough to pass this game for me.
Would you consider looking at just bet Falcons money line? Like if Desmond Ridder comes in and he is a pretty good quarterback, then there's no reason that they can't win the game. You can get plus 184 on FanDuel. I don't know if you're going to make another underdog money line round robin, but I think this might be a decent leg just with the unknowns.
I don't know because he's not I'm not looking at him swapping in for Mariota as a huge variance play because like I said, I'm not expecting Ridder to come in.
But it could be a big variance. Could be much worse. Could be much better.
But how many passes do you expect Ridder to throw? Like I said, the basis of this offense.
Maybe they won't change. I don't know. Maybe they'll change the offense. Maybe they won't. Yeah.
I highly doubt we're going to see Ridder come out and just air it out. So to me, that's where there's not as much. There's obviously some variance baked in with him starting, but not as much as when Watson came back and he's going to be throwing 30 plus passes every game.
So you're not betting Falcons money line?
Probably not. I am going to make another round robin, but
I think I might bet Falcons.
Maybe they'll make it in there. Maybe they'll make it in there.
I might bet Falcons money line.
Yeah, see, Mariota only attempted 30 passes once this entire season.
Yeah.
So they're not going to throw the ball unless they have.
I don't like their offense is stupid. I don't like their offense.
But if it's a weakness of the Saints defense, they might be able to run the ball.
Maybe the Saints defense gets a little healthier. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. This game's dumb. Any prop looks in this one?
It's a 4.5. I didn't realize it was.
I have nothing
in the hook now. Chris Olave is at 59.5. Worth a gander.
I feel like I bet him every week, and he's been pretty good. But he also,
I feel like his
should
line
be
doesn't
better.
Move. I feel like his line doesn't move. It's been the same thing.
It has been the same line every week. But I don't know. I feel like he just says dumb stuff.
He's at 59.5. Last game, 65 yards, 62 yards, 102 yards. All right. Then he had 40, but then 71, 52, 106. So he's always, I feel like he has a high enough floor to where 59.5 is a pretty good number. And you're getting not.
All right. I'm betting it.
All right.
Chris Olave over receiving. It's got it.
Good stuff. Proud of you.
All right. You in on that?
Yeah. I'm just finding the best line.
All right, it's on DraftKings. All right, moving on here. I'll tee up the next game. We have the Detroit Lions against the New York Jets. The Jets it's basically a pick 'em depending on where you're looking. Either team's going to be -1/+1. The over-under is 44.5. Pretty good weather looking out in New York right now. 37 degrees, clear skies. Injury report for the Jets. Mike White, questionable. Sounds like he is going to be fine to play, though. And then Corey Davis, wide receiver, sounds like he's probably not going to play. Same thing with defensive tackle Quinnen Williams, which would be a massive loss for this defense. I bet the Lions here. Gave this out as a look ahead last week at +3, +2.5. I have the money line at +130. I still think at a pick 'em. Like, I just think the Lions are the better team right now. They've been an absolute truck the last month. The offense has looked unstoppable. As much as we laughed at them earlier in the year, I think the defense is really rounding into form too. Over the last 6 weeks, where do you think the Lions defense ranks in overall DVOA? Last 6 weeks.
Well, they dominated the Jags, so probably like 14th, maybe.
Top 5 in the league. They are number 4 overall in DVOA over the last 6 weeks, 8 spots ahead of the New York Jets, who we think of to have a great defense. Now, part of, I think the Lions may be a little bit inflated here just because they have played 3 straight home games. We know Jared Goff splits indoors versus outdoors, at home versus on the road, but I don't think that's as much of a concern here. We're not having a ton of weather. He did put up 31 points at the Giants in New York a couple weeks ago, put up 31 points at the Bears on the road. They won both of those games. I think they'll be able to just run the ball, and I just think they're a better team than the Jets right now. Mike White's kind of been struggling with Corey Davis out on the offense. That's a big loss, and then Quinnen Williams stopping the run, rushing the passer. So I'm just taking the better team here to pick them. Give me the Lions money line. They keep it rolling.
Yeah, so I'm kind of leaning the other way.
Really? Wow.
I think,
okay.
When you back up and look at some of the defenses the Lions have been playing against, so look, their offense has been great, but they played the Bears, who are ranked 32nd in DVOA, the Giants, who are 29th, the Jags, who are 28th, and Minnesota's 22nd. So those are 4
Whoa, you forgot when they torched the Bills for 28 points or whatever they scored on them.
Well, I was talking about their wins. They're 5-1. Well, they're 5-1 in their last 6 games. Those were the wins.
Okay.
So, or the four of the 5 wins. But and here are the Jets ranked 6 overall in DVOA. I know I'm not, I'm not the biggest believer in the Jets defense. Same thing. They haven't played the toughest schedule, but they're top 10 against both the pass and the run. And you have Goff on the road here. I know it hasn't necessarily lived up to, but you look at the other two road games he's played against top 10 defenses were Dallas and New England, and he scored 6 total points in those 2 games. He was shut out against New England. Now, I know they weren't fully healthy. Amon-Ra was hurt, but still, a shutout is a shutout here. So I'm still anti-Mike White, and yeah, like you said, the Lions defense has been much better. It's somewhat of a sell high spot on the Lions for me, that I think they're starting to get into that territory where we got to pump the brakes a little bit here. I'm kind of hoping more people feel your way, so the Jets will move to 1.5, so I can tease them over a touchdown. So that's where I'm at.
I wouldn't even tease the Jets. I would tease the Lions. I wouldn't tease the Jets. I think the Lions could beat the crap out of them.
Why?
I don't think it's going to happen, but I think
you've been the biggest believer in the Jets defense over the last few weeks, and now you think the Lions are just
the Lions offense is just better.
But look at the defense. I've just rattled off the defense. They've been lighting up. I don't know, man. Those are like,
you rattled off what?
The defenses they did it against. It's the bottom 10 defense.
I think their offense is just so good. I don't care what defense they're going up against. They're going to be able to score points.
I don't know. You I feel like you're doing a 180 here on the Jets.
I've been high on the Lions for like 6 straight weeks now. Maybe I just think the Lions are better than the Jets. I mean, I think the
you're
Jets
overvaluing a little bit.
We'll find out. I don't know if I am. We will find out. That this will be a great test.
Maybe.
All right, prop looks for you in this one. Would you go back to Amon-Ra receptions? He burned us last week, but still saw 9 targets, just missed it by 1. Would you look at him? Do you have anyone else?
I think if it's 6.5, I'd take it. If it was 7.5 again, I'd probably lay off.
I think 6.5 would still be good, but 7.5 is a pass.
Yeah.
And the Jets, maybe Garrett Wilson, but I feel like he's probably going to be pretty inflated now.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where it opens. If it was low 60s, I would take it. I feel like it might be high 60s.
Yeah, and this is, hopefully Mike White's like alive and well after last week. Dude took some absolute shots.
They drove him to the hospital after the game. Like, that's not a great sign.
Pretty crazy. I can't believe he came back in the game after a couple.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson is licking his chops right now.
Don't even get
this is the game he makes a statement.
When is the last time
for defensive rookie of the year?
Like, I feel like the Lions are on red zone so much, and I never see this guy make a play. What how many sacks is this? He had the one.
He had one last week. Hansen brought it up on
week?
Yes, on red zone. They showed the sack, and Hansen was singing his.
Oh, you're right. He did. You're right. He had that one game early in the season where he had like 3 sacks, and it's just been like a sack every 2 weeks.
If he beats Sauce head to head this week and makes a big impact play, I think we still have a chance.
I hope you're right. Well, there's still isn't Woolen still in there too?
Yeah, he's done though. The Seahawks defense is horrendous. Unless he has like 3 more interceptions, there's no way.
Yeah, that's fair. But how can a cornerback win defensive player of the year over a defensive end that has as many interceptions as him?
Really amazing.
I know that's not. I know interceptions aren't everything, but I mean, come on. Hutchinson has 2 interceptions. Sauce has 2 interceptions.
It is pretty insane when you put it like that.
Yeah. So, that's my case to whoever the heck votes on these awards.
Yeah, let's pump up that narrative a little bit more.
Yeah,
we need to talk to these award voters.
Yeah.
All right, let's move right along here to the Kansas City Chiefs against Houston Texans. Texans are getting 14 points at home. The over-under is shot up to 49.5. Mecole Hardman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. Damian Pierce out for the Texans. And then Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Derek Stingley, all questionable. The Texans announced they're going to continue with their interesting quarterback rotation of Jeff Driscoll and Davis Mills that I did not see coming last week. I was like, did Mills get hurt? What is happening here? Driscoll's in, then he's out. It was weird. I guess it worked. I mean, they played really well. Do you have a play on this one? Are you back on your Houston Texans here?
Well, they're bringing Driscoll in the game, like running these read options as if he's Taysom Hill or something.
So weird.
Like, he's mobile, but he's not like
not like that.
Yes, it was just so weird, but it almost worked. I guess it caught the Cowboys off.
It was like so dumb the Cowboys couldn't have possibly seen it coming.
Yeah,
They're just like, what is happening?
Yeah, but this game's a pass for me. I don't want to lay the 2 touchdowns, but now you have the Chiefs the Texans without Pierce, without probably Cooks again, without probably Collins again. So there's really, the cupboard is bare on the Texans offense, you could say. So this game's a pass for me.
Yeah, also a pass for me. I like the over a lot on the open, but I think it's moved like 3 full points since then. So definitely not taking it now. Chiefs team total is up over 31 now, so can't really look that way. I tried to find a bunch of different angles, really have nothing. I do have a prop I love in this one. We don't have lines for it, but I have a look. Do you have any props before I give out mine?
No, I don't have any props in this game.
Isaiah Pacheco rush yards might be one of my favorite props of the week, and it's gone a little bit under the radar. This is a 2-headed backfield, him and Jerick McKinnon. I think Pacheco is going to continue getting a lot of work down the stretch here as they try and keep McKinnon, who's obviously an older back, healthy down the stretch because they're going to need him. The production has quietly been awesome. Over the last 5 weeks, Pacheco has gone 13 for 70, 14 for 66, 22 for 69, 15 for 107, and 16 for 82. He's averaging 79 rush yards per game on 16 carries since Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt. Texans are dead last in run defense. I think the Chiefs get a lead and run the ball, kind of like they tried to do last week, but weren't very successful. So if he's lined in the low to mid 60s, I think that's going to be a great look.
Okay. What would you set? I don't know if you saw it already. What would you set the total of the Chiefs and Seahawks game next week at?
53.
Yeah, it's 48.5 right now.
Wow, what?
Yeah.
48.5.
I was in the same boat. I thought it was going to be much higher.
Why does FanDuel not have
I know, it's only on DraftKings. That's the problem. FanDuel doesn't do the totals. So yeah, that's definitely when I'll be looking the over at.
The Seahawks.
Wait.
I mean, not going to bet it now, but like,
well, no, I'm going to wait for the 10. No, 10. If we get 10.5 with the Seahawks, and if the Seahawks
even 9.5, this offense against
but I'm saying don't bet it now. Don't.
No,
bet
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, wait. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that'll be a good prop game for the Seahawks. Metcalf and Lockett probably.
Yeah. All right. Focus. Week 15.
Sorry. Got off track there.
All right, back on track. Eagles against the Bears. Bears are 8.5-point home underdogs in Chicago. Wait, okay. Now I'm on the wrong week.
What?
They were 10-point dogs with the Bills next week, but we're on this week. The Eagles are laying 8.5 on the road. The over-under is 48.5. Weather, it's going to be freezing cold. I think the temperature is going to be in the high teens, but not a ton of wind, no snow or precipitation. So not terrible. Justin Fields expected to be fully healthy coming off the bye, although they do have a ton of injuries in the secondary. Kendall Vildor, Jaquan Brisker, and Kyler Gordon all questionable. Chase Claypool also popped up on the injury report today. Darnell Mooney is out, so the Bears are not in the greatest of shape. And then the Eagles, Lane Johnson questionable, Dallas Goedert still out. Everyone else pretty much fully healthy. For me, this is a game. If you get the Eagles in a teaser at 8.5, that seems like a pretty much a no-brainer. Other than that, I don't think I have any plays on this one. What about you?
Yeah, I took the Eagles team total over 29, and simply I do not know how the Bears going to stop in this game.
Okay.
Since the Eagles went through that 2-game rough patch against the Commanders and Colts, they've scored 40, 35, and 48 points. On the Bears' current 6-game losing streak, they're allowing 33.5 points per game. So it's a hefty number at 29.5, but an already bad Bears defense. You just rattled off the injuries in the secondary. It just seems like even if you can lock down this like Brown, Smith, and Sanders on the play, then it's just Jalen Hurts running for 20 plus yards. So no one's had answers for this Eagles offense of late, and I don't expect the Bears to come in and figure it, or the Eagles to go to the Bears and the Bears figure it out. So 29.5 over points for the Eagles.
All right. You made a very compelling case. I also bet the Eagles team total over 29.5 as
Love
we're
it.
talking. Prop looks for you in this one.
Yeah, I think we kind of said it last week. The Eagles can kind of come at you a bunch of different ways. It's kind of hard. Like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith had pretty good weeks last week, and it was a Miles Sanders week, but it's kind of tough to take a gamble on a week to week basis. Now, if they keep going off for 40 plus points every week, and then kind of everyone has a good
And
game.
everyone over.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna stick with the team total.
I ended up on Miles Sanders last week. I think I may go back to him this week. I saw 68.5 with the over at plus 100 earlier today on Caesars. It's moved a little bit, but maybe keep an eye on it. The Bears' run defense, look, their pass defense isn't good. The run defense isn't good either. But if it's going to be a freezing cold game, maybe there's a little bit of wind. I think maybe you see a little bit more Sanders on the ground than you typically would. The Eagles just kind of playing with a lead. So not a super strong play, but I still think Sanders in the 60s is a decent look.
Okay.
Would you have any interest in Fields' rush yards in the high 60s, or is it just at a point where there's not a ton of value?
Is that what it's at?
I believe I saw 69.5 earlier today.
I don't know. Like, I feel like the Eagles could like just stick Kaiser White on a spot. Like someone's going to figure this out. There's just not enough weapons on the offense to worry about. But yeah, you like to think the Eagles are a good enough defense to at least limit them.
I kind of feel the same way. Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be like one long run he breaks off like he's been doing, but I don't think it's something we can blindly bet every week like we did when he was in the 50s.
I mean, at some point he can't have a 55-yard touchdown run every week, right?
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to our next game here. Pittsburgh Steelers against Carolina Panthers. Panthers are up to 2.5 to 3-point favorites, depending on where you're looking. The over-under is 37.5. DJ Moore and Xavier Woods both questionable for the Panthers. Moore did practice today, so trending in. And then for the Steelers, Pat Freiermuth on the injury report, but going to play. And then Kenny Pickett, very interesting situation here. I heard rumors earlier today about a potential Mason Rudolph coming in instead of Mitch Trubisky, but then Pickett was a full participant in practice, which sounds like he's trending towards playing. So I think the Steelers quarterback situation is key here for me. If I had Pickett in the game and you told me the Steelers were dogs, if I could get them +3, +2.5, I think that's an easy bet to make on the Steelers as underdogs. If it's Trubisky or Mason Rudolph, I think that's a lot more problematic. Then it's probably a pass for me. So it's kind of wait on the Steelers quarterback situation. If it's Pickett, play them in any way you want, tease them, bet them on the money line. I'm fine with that. If it's not Pickett, probably a pass. Wouldn't bet the Panthers at the current numbers. What about you?
Yeah, this is another one I'm going to play the Steelers no matter who's at quarterback, but I'm going to wait for it just to, see if I can get 3 and a hook or even 4 if it's ends up being Mason Rudolph. It's more of a bet on the
3.5 with Trubisky or Rudolph.
Yeah, I would take anything over 3 with those guys. If it's Pickett and I'm getting a flat 3, so I'm fine with that. It's still Sam Darnold on the other side, and it's both of his starts. They were able to run the ball well, and he didn't really have to do that much. He only attempted 24 and 19 passes in both games, so there really wasn't much on him. And the Steelers are a much better run defense than what they face in those starts. And now you're going to have Sam Darnold if he has to drop back more because they can't run the ball. If we're talking close to 30 dropbacks against the Steelers defensive line and we have Sam Darnold under pressure, now that's going to be a completely different Panthers offense than what we've seen the last few weeks. And I'm not – it's kind of the same thing with, like, the Ravens game. I'm just expecting, like, an ugly type of game where it's going to be close. I want the field goal here. And the Panthers defense we kind of talked about last week. They've been hit or miss. Now, if it's Rudolph or it's Trubisky, I'm not expecting like a 24 put output, but like I could see this being like a 17-14 type of ugly game. So I'll take the points with the Steelers here.
The only concern I have is part of the reason why I like the Steelers against the Ravens last week was because of the run defense and that they got absolutely gashed on the ground. I mean, J.K. Dobbins was like hobbling out there on one knee for 120 yards. So that didn't inspire a ton of confidence. But I mean, overall in the season, they have been a good run defense. And maybe it was just a bad matchup, but the Ravens just did a great job blocking up front. But didn't love what I saw there.
Yeah, that's fair. But and it's also just kind of like like we're getting 3.5 points against Sam Darnold. So
with a competent team, like it's not like the Steelers are terrible. Like
that's what I mean. Yeah,
So
and a great defense too. It's not like just a competent defense or above average defense. I mean, not great for this whole season, but good enough to where I feel they'll be able to force a few mistakes from Sam Darnold if he's dropping back 25 times.
What about the under 37.5? It's low, but like,
I mean, like I feel like we've seen some of these low totals throughout the season, like the 37. We get the one couple with the Broncos, and they're still like it's like they're not low enough.
I mean, the Ravens Steelers last week had like 3 drives in a row that scored. Then there was just like nothing the rest of the game, and it went under by like 10.
Yeah, so I could definitely see it going under.
I might look at that. Might see if I can find a 38.
Yeah, and I love the Steelers and teasers. Same thing with the Ravens. If I didn't say that earlier, once these lines kind of settle in, if it's at like a 2, if it ends up at like 2.5, like the Ravens was floating around 2.5, absolutely love them. And teasers, same thing with the Steelers.
Okay, prop looks for you in this one.
Yeah, no props.
Pour one out for DJ Moore. He died before he could even be revived from the dead. I was so excited to bet him last week, and he had 0 catches for 0.
Thank God I talked you out of that one on the prop sheet.
You should have talked me out of it financially because I lost a lot of money.
I tried. I did my best.
I had like 3 or 4 different SGPs in that game, like thinking I love the over, I love the Panthers, and somehow nothing you parlay. Like you couldn't get Foreman touchdown. DJ Moore didn't have a catch. Like Darnold passed. It was just nothing. We nailed the game, but none of the props came through.
Yeah.
All right, move along here to a very interesting game against 2 key teams fighting for playoff picture. I guess one of them is the Dallas Cowboys against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are 4.5-point home dogs. Over under is 47.5. The Jags need this game to stay in the playoff race in the AFC South. Tyron Smith activated off IR for the Cowboys. Meanwhile, other offensive tackle Terrence Steele is done for the year. And then for the Jaguars, Trayvon Walker is questionable. Do you have a play here? Is this a buy low spot on the Cowboys? Are you riding the Trevor Lawrence resurgence? What do you got here?
Yeah, like I look at this game and I feel like the line's a little short. I feel like it should be 6 based on the overall season here, but and like you said, it's kind of a buy low spot on the Cowboys. They definitely scared some people off after almost losing to the Texans, and a pretty big sell high spot on the Jaguars after they absolutely dominated the Titans. And you kind of look what the Jags have done the last 5 games. They make an amazing comeback against the Raiders and they win. Then they come back and they get crushed by the Chiefs. They beat the Ravens with another, pretty big upset. And then they come back and they get demolished by the Lions. And now they beat the Titans, a huge win. So if we're following the trend, are they going to come out and lay an egg here? But in reality, right now, I just don't trust Dak. And the last 2 games, defensively, they allowed the Texans to move the ball fairly well, who were missing their top 2 targets. They were in a 2-point game with the Colts in the 4th quarter until they self-imploded. And I feel like Jacksonville can match up pretty decent with them in the run game. Dak has 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. He's thrown an interception in every game where he's had to attempt 25 or more passes. So really, I just don't have the confidence in Dak right now. If the Jaguars can kind of limit that run game and force Dak to have to throw the ball 30 plus times, I just don't think that's how the Cowboys win games. But, I feel like there has to be a buy point on the Cowboys here, whether it's a flat 4, whether it's 3.5. I feel like you just kind of have to trust the Cowboys defensively that's been winning them games all year. So a little bit of back and forth on this, but I'd say a lean to the Cowboys, but I want to see where this line settles.
Okay. I'm not going to have a play on the spread here. I like the total, though. I like the over 47.5 quite a bit here. Both these offenses are top 10 in neutral game pace of play. The Cowboys offense has an incredible amount of firepower, even as mediocre as Dak has been. They've went over in 4 of their last 5, scoring an average of 35.4 points per game. And on the Jags side, their offense has been a little bit up and down, but I think we've seen them play up more than they've been down recently. Big flop against the Lions a couple weeks ago, but they scored 28 points against a really good Ravens defense. They demolished the Titans last week, 428 total yards, 36 points. The Cowboys defense has looked a heck of a lot more vulnerable the last few weeks. They placed 2 cornerbacks on IR in the past 2 weeks, so their secondary is a little bit banged up here. And they also just played 3 of the worst offenses in football. The Cowboys allowed at least 19 points to 23 points. So the Colts, Texans, and Giants, like this is a pretty big step up in class here to a Jaguars offense that actually has a pulse. So I thought this over should have been, or I thought this total probably was a couple points too low. So over 47.5 was my favorite look here.
I don't know. It just seems like the Jags' big offensive games are in their wins. Like you look at them in their losses, 14 points, 17 points, 17 points, 17 points at the 27, and 6. Like, you know what I mean?
They might just win.
Okay.
I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not counting out weird things happen down in Jacksonville sometimes.
I could see them winning this game.
Yeah.
All right, prop looks for you in this one.
I don't know. I feel like I haven't had the best luck with tight end props this year, but I'll be side eyeing Dalton Schultz. He had 10 targets last week. Jags are 32nd in the league against tight ends, 27th in yards allowed to tight ends, but he hasn't been really consistent, so it's a little bit scary.
I think we're like, at least I am. I don't know if you. I'm like 0-4 betting Dalton Schultz this year. Like it's been terrible.
No, didn't we hit him on like Thanksgiving or no?
Maybe by what? I think I had he went under on his yards, but he got the catch on like one of the final plays or something. I think we did get him maybe there, but it's been rough on Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
But if you watch the Titans game last week, my guy Chig Okonkwo, big game. I think Austin Hooper also had like 80 yards. Like the Titans tight ends combined for like 140 yards last week. Like the Jaguars defense is bad versus tight ends.
Yeah. And another guy I mentioned on the pod last week didn't make it on the prop sheet. Zay Jones, monster game. I did bet his over last week. He had 12 targets, 8 receptions, 77 yards. Week before he had 7 targets, but he only had the 2 receptions. That's when you gave me a hard time about last week. But then 14 targets for 11 receptions, 10 targets for 8 receptions. So he's been Lawrence's go-to guy of late. So with the injuries in the secondary for the Cowboys, I think he's a pretty good play.
Will he be a part of your DFS lineup again?
He might. He just might. The one I keep dominating you in, yes.
Oh, me and you both. We're just killing Dave every week.
Yeah, I know.
We've alternated wins like every week.
I think we got to take it easy this week.
Maybe we should let him win to build up his confidence. He's been getting a little down on himself.
Yeah, we'll both pick Brett Ripien as our quarterback.
Yeah, perfect. I'm going to look at Trevor Lawrence over pass attempts, see where that's at. If you remove the Lions game where he got hurt with the ankle injury and missed several drives, he has 42, 37, and 40 over his last 3 games. I like the over in the game. I think there's going to be a lot of pace from both offenses, so I'll take Lawrence over pass attempts since ETN really hasn't been getting it done on the ground recently.
Okay.
All right, moving on here to a pretty ugly game here. The Arizona Cardinals against the Denver Broncos. Broncos are laying 2.5 points at home. The over-under is 36.5. Big news in the quarterback front here. Kyler Murray, torn ACL. Colt McCoy is in. Rondale Moore also out, and Byron Murphy questionable in the Cardinals secondary. And then for the Broncos, Russell Wilson questionable with a pretty scary concussion last week. And then Cortland Sutton, Kendall Hinton questionable, and Mike Boone out. What do you have here? A lot of moving pieces, especially in the quarterbacks. Any plays or thoughts on where this market might go and what you do?
This is another one that has one of those extremely low totals. What did it settle at now? 37, 30,
36 and a half.
It's another one that I have a hard time seeing how it goes over.
I could see this one going over. I don't
in
like
what
this
way
one
though.
I think the Cardinals have a lot of weapons on offense and they don't have a great defense. I could see them putting up some points. And for whatever reason, the Broncos offense came alive last week. Jerry Jeudy remembered how to play football. I don't know. I could see this one having some points.
How though? The Broncos haven't been able to do anything all year with Wilson. You expect Ripien to come in here, and yeah, the Cardinals have some weapons. They didn't put up any points last week against the Patriots. Now you're going against a much better Broncos defense. Like this game
also happened mid-game. They had to throw out the whole game plan with Kyler. It's a little bit harder mid-game.
I don't know. Like I feel like I have to have some standards of where I bet unders to, but this one's a lean to the under because I'm having trouble seeing how they're scoring enough how either team gets to like 20 points in this game.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. I wouldn't bet it, but I mean, I wouldn't bet the over, but I don't love it as much. On the side here for me, I think Colt McCoy is a better quarterback than Brett Rippon. So
Yeah.
if it's going to be Brett Rippon, I think I'm all over the Cardinals here. I would take, if you can get a +3, if you could tease them at +2.5, otherwise just take the money line. That's fine. If Russ is announced in, probably a pass for me all around. The spread probably goes to Broncos -3, maybe 3.5. I'm not laying it with the Broncos, but I don't really want to trust the Cardinals. This game doesn't really mean anything to either team. So, I don't really want to mess around with it too much. If it's McCoy against a backup quarterback, I'll take it. But outside of that, it's probably just a pass.
I could get on board with them in teasers if it's Ripien versus McCoy. I think you take, like you said, the better quarterback. You tease him over a touchdown. You're 36.5 point total. So I think you'll be in a good spot there.
I agree. Prop looks for you in this one?
Nothing.
I may look at DeAndre Hopkins' receptions. He seems to have a really good rapport with Colt McCoy, 7 for 79 on 11 targets versus the Patriots last week. It's also a tough matchup, though. I don't know. Maybe this isn't the week to go against the Broncos secondary. You think it's probably just a pass?
Yeah, probably.
What if it was 5.5 because they over-adjust for the matchup?
Wow, 5.5. Yeah, I would take that.
Okay. I don't know. I
don't think they'll get 5.5.
I don't think so either. But we'll see. All right. Ready to move on to our next game here?
You just skip this one. I don't want to talk about this one.
We have to talk about it.
Okay.
It's going to be fun. The New England Patriots against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders are laying 1 point at home in Vegas. The over-under is 44.5 here. Very opposite injury reports here. If you just look at both teams, the Raiders are expected to get Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow back off of IR and back in the lineup. Josh Jacobs questionable, but it sounds like he's going to play. The Patriots have one of the most brutal injury reports I've seen all season. Devin McCourty questionable on their defense. On their offense, Jacoby Myers questionable, Damian Harris questionable, Ramondre Stevenson not practicing, probably not going to play, Isaiah Wynn questionable, Devontae Parker not practicing, probably not going to play. This is already an offense that's absolutely brutal. They're now missing potentially their top 3 pass catchers and both running backs. I mean, this is an absolute disaster. I think everyone knows my stance on this game. If not, I bet the Raiders last week like an idiot. I bet them to make the playoffs. I bet Devontae Adams Offensive Player of the Year. I can't figure out this freaking team, so maybe don't take it from me, but I'm in here on the Raiders. They just have so much more talent, but it's also Josh McDaniels going up against Bill Belichick. So would anybody really be surprised if Belichick pantsed him and the Patriots won? So I don't know. I'm on the Raiders. God help me. Any thoughts here?
I don't see how the Raiders lose this game, but
it's impossible, right?
That's what I'm saying. I want nothing to do with this game, but then you just made the case for me with that injury report. How do the Raiders
listen to the guys on it? How did the Patriots score a point?
But then look at the Rams last week.
But how did the Rams score a point?
That's what I mean. It's how am I supposed to trust the Raiders in any matchup when they just lost? The injuries and everything lines up perfectly for the Raiders.
It's also an amazing spot. The Patriots played on Monday Night Football and the Raiders are off the mini bye. I mean, it's incredible.
I can't do it. I just cannot do it because everything you had every case in the world last week for the Raiders, and it still doesn't come through. So it's just a pass for me.
What if you just took the Raiders to win the first half of the game? Don't even let Josh McDaniels screw it up at the end. What if you just take them first half money line at the pick?
No, I don't want anything to do. I need a week off. I can't do it.
All right. You need the week off. I get it. I'm already in. I have no choice. Prop looks for you in this one?
I don't know. I'm debating going back to Devontae Adams.
It's tough with Waller and Renfrow coming back.
Yeah, but how much
stuff change? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe they just won't throw him the ball like last week. I don't know what they expect anymore.
I mean, last week was 20 pass attempts. He still had 7 targets in the game and ended with 71 yards. That's on 20 pass attempts. Derek Carr's going to throw more than 20 passes in this game.
You would hope so. If Josh Jacobs gains 2 yards, they might be like, we got to stick with this.
I don't know. We'll see what the line's at.
Yeah.
87.5. Would you take the over?
No. I can't do it after last week. He burned me too bad.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Tennessee Titans against the LA Chargers. Chargers are laying 3 points at home here. The over-under is 47. Treylon Burks, Christian Fulton, D'Amico Autry, all questionable. David Long, Elijah Molden, Caleb Farley, all out. That is 3 members of the Titans secondary likely not going to play.
You good?
Trey Pipkins, Derwin James, and Bryce Callahan questionable on the Chargers side. Sound like their offense will be fully healthy again here. Interesting game. Obviously, both offenses have pretty good matchups. The Chargers love to throw the ball. The Titans have a brutal secondary. Titans love to run the ball. The Chargers can't stop the run. Any looks for you in this game, side or total?
Yeah, this one's tough because I like the Chargers are one of those teams I really don't love laying points with. I feel like I've been burned on them a few times laying points with them this season. But like you say, the Titans should be able to run the ball. They really haven't been. Okay, they ran the ball
last week.
They ran the ball last week. I think, are we at a point where they can only run the ball well against the Texans and Jaguars?
Pretty much.
Because they didn't run the ball against the Eagles, which was a good matchup. They didn't run the ball against Cincinnati. They didn't run the ball against the Packers, which was a dream matchup for them. So
I tried really hard.
And then last week, like, okay, they ran the ball well in the first half. The second half, they couldn't run because their defense couldn't get a stop, so they were forced to throw the ball. So this, to me, kind of screams like a similar game script to that, where first half it might be, get out of the gates, the Titans are going to be running the ball, but the Chargers getting Mike Williams and Keenan Allen healthy in that matchup last week, like, I know it didn't translate to a ton of points, but the offense just looked so much better with both of them healthy in lineup here. And this Titans secondary is just in a bad way right now. So,
yeah,
if the Chargers look anything like they did last week, I've considered the Chargers team total. I think it was around 26.5, but they haven't really been consistent enough scoring. So I might get there with the team total. I might lay it with the Chargers, but I want a piece of the Chargers in this matchup because the Titans defense is just so bad right now against the pass, which plays right into what the Chargers want to do.
Yeah, I agree. I did bet the over here. I bet the over 47, and I bet the Chargers team total is 24.5 right now. I'll probably put some on that as well. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like both these offenses have too good of matchups. I know the Titans are a little bit hard to trust, but I still think they can have some success on the ground. And I just think this Chargers passing offense, I know they haven't put up a ton of points recently, but they also got stopped at the goal line last week. I think they probably should have scored more than they could have. And the Titans really just got beat pretty badly by the Jags, Eagles, and Bengals all through the air. So I just think with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, the full complement of weapons, I think Herbert can have a ton of success here, all over him in props. And I like the over here. I think it's a little bit too low.
Okay, yeah, I see the over being a couple points too low. I like that.
Okay. Would you look at any Chargers receivers in the prop game? Would you touch Derrick Henry? I don't know if I can get there with Henry based on game script concerns, but I don't know the matchups there.
I'll probably look at Keenan Allen. He's had 14 targets each of the last 2 weeks, 12 receptions last week, only 6 a week before that. But if your target volume's at 14 per week, I'm going to guess he's probably at 6.5 receptions. Yeah. I like that. And the Titans have a good run defense. So, the Chargers already want to pass the ball, but you'd expect a ton of pass opportunities here. So, yeah, give me Keenan Allen receptions.
Yeah, and I would try and stick to the Chargers receivers in the prop game. The Titans are actually really good against pass-catching running backs. They're top 5 in DVOA, so I don't think it's an Eckler week on the ground or through the air. I'd target Mike Williams yards or, like you said, Keenan Allen receptions. I think is good.
Okay.
And if you want a long shot, don't be afraid to give Chig Okonkwo another look. 6 for 45 and a touchdown last week. And yes, Rue, he runs a 4.52 40-yard dash.
How big is he?
6'2".
No, wait, 6'2", 250, 4.52.
6'2", 250 with a 4.52.
Okay. All right, I think I could get close to that. I'm not 6'2", though.
In what? How are you getting there in weight, height? Like
I think at my peak in my playing days, I was like I was barely breaking 5. I was like 4.97 or something.
Okay. And your peak weight was like 295?
Well, no, when I played football, my peak weight was like 280.
Not when you were playing football. You wouldn't be able to move.
Oh, outside of that. Oh, yeah. When I was powerlifting, it was like 280. Then I was probably running like a 6'2".
Oh, God. Yeah. Trying to move side to side on the field at 280. Yeah. That's brutal.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along here to one of my favorite bets of the week: the Cincinnati Bengals against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucs are 3.5-point home dogs. The over/under is 43.5. This was our favorite bet on the look-aheads last week. Hopefully, you grabbed the Bengals at under 3 with us. Bunch of injuries in this game. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, both questionable. Both actually practiced today in a limited fashion, so it sounds like they may be trending towards playing. And Trey Hendrickson, star pass rusher, is out. For the Bucs, Vita Vea, Tristan Wirfs, both likely not going to play here, according to Coach Todd Bowles. And then Antoine Winfield, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Jamel Dean, and Mike Edwards, all questionable in this Bucs secondary. Good luck covering Jamar Chase and whatever other receivers do play. What do you have here on this one? I know we obviously took the Bengals last week. Would you still bet them at the current number? Have you wavered at all?
No, haven't wavered at all. I still love the Bengals here. I would still take them at 3.5. I still don't know what I watched last week with this Bucs team. We kind of knew offensively we weren't going to see much. Now we didn't expect it to be 7 points bad, but defensively,
the defense,
35 points. Oh my God. And I know like the Cincinnati's a completely different type of offense than San Francisco, but Cincinnati's won 5 straight games now. And it's just another case of two teams just headed in completely opposite directions. If the Bengals get to like the Bucs haven't scored, they scored 21 points one time in the last 5
And it was against the Seahawks, like the worst defense in the league.
Yeah. So I just don't see a word. And the Bengals have a defense that's been playing very solid. They've been the best second half defense in the league. So the Bengals get to like 24, 27 points here. I think it should be a pretty easy cover. So something is still holding this Bucs line down, because if we just look at the overall season, the Bengals should be at least like 4.5, 5.5 point favorites here.
Yeah, totally with you. Couldn't have said it any better. Two teams heading in completely opposite directions. The Bucs are banged up in their secondary. Vita Vea missing is a huge part of that run defense. I think Mixon and Pirine can get it going on the ground. And like you said, I just think that Burrow and company is going to be able to score into the low to mid 20s, and the Bucs just can't do enough on offense against anybody right now to compete. So give me the Bengals here. This will come up later in the show as well.
Okay.
Prop looks for you in this one. Would you go back to Chris Godwin receptions?
Yeah, if it's at 5.5 again, I would, because he's been so consistent. I don't think the one game scared me. It was just, I expect them to lose. I don't expect it to be 35-7 bad and where they're not really playing late in the game. But the targets were still there. He saw 9 targets. He had 13 targets both weeks before that. So double-digit targets in every game but 3 this year. So the target volume's there. I'm fine going back to it. Yeah, that's the one prop I had.
I agree. I'm also going to look at Jamar Chase, see where his numbers are at. He got insane volume last week, 10 for 119 and 1 on 15 targets. We'll see if T and Boyd play, but either way, against this Bucs secondary, I'm definitely going to look at Chase.
Yeah.
All right, NFC East divisional battle on Sunday Night Football. A repeat of 2 weeks ago, the New York Football Giants taking on the Washington Football Commanders. The total is 40.5. The Commanders are laying 4.5 points at home. Leonard Williams, Daniel Bellinger questionable for the Giants, and it sounds like Montez Sweat and Chase Young both questionable for the Footballs, but are going to play. What do you have on this one? I took the Giants last week at +4 on the look-aheads. It's kind of tough. I don't feel great about it. The Giants offense is just really tough if Saquon isn't playing at an elite level, and he just kind of seems to be wearing down as the season goes on. But I also think the spread is too many points. I wouldn't want to lay this with the Footballs, even though they're off a bye. It's a good spot. They're getting healthier, but it's still 2 division teams that just played to a tie 2 weeks ago. What do you have? Any strong takes?
That's the thing. How much has changed from 2 weeks ago where our stances should waver that much? We took the Giants at 2.5 in that game. We were at least leaning that way.
I bet
because we're saying, oh, you did? Okay. Maybe it was me and Dave that I remember. But regardless, it's just that type of matchup where you're again, just give me the points in this. And now we're getting over a field goal here. As bad as the Giants look, it's just hard to pass up in this matchup, because you can make the case. I said it in that matchup. I think the Commanders are the better team.
Yeah.
But we saw how it played out. And the Commanders outgained the Giants bonus 100 yards, but from a yards per play perspective, it was 5 yards per play for the Commanders, 4.9 for the Giants. So
I thought the Giants were better. They should have won the game.
Yeah, they both had one missed opportunity in the red zone. So it was all intents and purposes, it was a pretty even game. That's kind of what you expect from these teams. But it's a little scary with what you've seen from the Giants, but I think, again, it's just the matchup where you're going to take the points here, especially when it's over a field goal.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. It's just tough to really get excited about this Giants
It
team,
is,
even when
yeah.
you're getting points that they don't inspire a ton of confidence. But
Yeah.
it's probably going to be an ugly, low-scoring game, and you're going to want the points instead of having to lay them.
Yep.
Prop looks for you in this one?
Nothing.
I'm going to look at Brian Robinson rush yards, 21 for 96 against the Giants last game, 18 for 105 the week before, 15 for 57, 26 for 86. Kind of seems to have taken the lead in the football's backfield, and the Giants rank 31st against the run. So I think it could be a good spot to get Brian Robinson.
All right. I'd almost rather take his attempts, but I guess he hasn't been as inefficient as I mean, he's been
I wouldn't
like,
mind attempts either.
He's been less than 4 yards per carry in almost every game, except the last two. I mean, he was 4.6 yards per carry against the Giants, 5.8 against Atlanta. But other than that, he's been sub 4 yards per carry. So,
yeah, I mean, the problem is he's not very good. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I was getting.
The problem.
He's not good, but they'll give him the ball.
Yes. Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
All right. Monday Night Football here. We have the LA Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. Packers are laying 6.5 points. The over-under is 39.5. We know the usual suspects on the Rams injury report, and Baker Mayfield will be starting at quarterback. Packers expect to get Romeo Doubs back in the receiving core. No other major injury notes here. I kind of like the Packers in this game a lot. So on the look aheads, this was kind of Rams like 7.5, Rams 8. I'm thinking, okay, Baker Mayfield showed a ton of life. They beat the Raiders at probably a really good spot, but something was holding me back. Now that this spread is dipped down to Packers 6.5, I haven't bet it yet. I'm kind of waiting to see where the number goes. I have the Packers in a money line. I have them in a teaser play. But I just think that this is look, the Rams last week, they come back and win the game against the Raiders, but for all intents and purposes, through 55 minutes of that game, they were down 16-3, had less than 175 yards of total offense, could do absolutely nothing in the game, and then they finished with a 75-yard touchdown drive and 98-yard touchdown drive, which was aided by Raiders penalties, Raiders atrocious defensive schemes. So it's like we're almost just throwing out the first 95% of the game and saying, oh, look, Baker Mayfield's back, the Rams offense is great, when in reality, they were absolutely brutal for 55 minutes. Like, I just think that this Rams offense is going to be a lot more of what we saw in the first 95% instead of the last 5%. So as scary as it is to lay points with this Packers team, I think the Packers might kill
them. I took the Rams.
Really? Okay.
No, I wouldn't take it at the 6.5. I would need a touchdown or more to take it. I took them at 8, actually. And
I had no idea.
This isn't a Baker Mayfield is back type of thing. This is the Packers cannot be laying 8 points to anyone in this game. They have 5 wins on the season. The only 2 wins that came by more than 3 points were against the Bears, who we know they always dominate against. Those
the Bears really that much different than the Rams right now? Like, they're like the same team.
Doesn't matter. It's just a matchup. Like, that's where Rodgers shines. That's his thing. And they only won by 9 and 10 points. They only won by 9 and 10 points. So it's not like they blew them out.
Who else did they beat?
It was the Cowboys by 3.
I thought you had 2 teams that they beat by.
No, they were both 3. The Bears. Both wins were the Bears.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Both wins. Those are the only ones. All the other ones were by 3 points or less.
All right, but you beat the Cowboys. Sorry, they didn't beat the Cowboys by 10 points.
I'm just saying. And I'm not going to sit here and proclaim Baker Mayfield's back, but he's in a much better situation than he was in with a much better head coach. Maybe not a much better situation in terms of weapons, but he's
throwing the 2-2 Atwell and Ben Skowronek. I mean,
he's with a much better coach.
Yes.
The Packers defense has been atrocious for most of the season. And the Packers just haven't shown any signs of being able to put teams away by margin. Even those Bears games, the Bears were right there with a chance to backdoor cover the game. So this is just a product of the Packers cannot be laying more than a touchdown to anyone. So I'll take the Rams here.
I don't know. I disagree. I think the Packers they're coming off a bye. They're at home in prime time. A team from LA going to Green Bay in Lambeau. It's going to be
the Packers will win. The Packers will win, but I don't think they're going to win by margin.
So would you like him in teasers or in a money line parlay, or does it not justify the risk the price that you're paying?
I don't think it justifies it.
Okay.
Personally.
Okay. That's fine. I bet a Packers Bills money line parlay earlier and felt amazing about it.
Oh, the Giants are up to 4.5 now. I didn't realize that.
There was a 5 earlier today. It might get higher.
Okay. Yeah, that's too many points.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one seems to agree with us. It seems like
too many
everyone's been betting
points.
the footballs
Yeah.
all week, but I kind of agree.
I feel
All
like
right.
we're walking into it, but
Anything left to say before we go to long shots and best bets?
no.
All right. Give you the honors here. What is your long shot of the week for week number 15?
So I'm going with a AFC North underdog money line parlay. I'm going to wait for the lines to settle on them, but I'm going to go with the Ravens and Steelers money line underdog parlay. 2 coin flip games, in my opinion, getting pretty good value, plus 120 or better on both money lines. Right now on FanDuel, you parlay them both together, it's plus 415.
Wow.
But we'll wait for QB news on both of those.
Good. Love it. All right, for my long shot, I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson to have a monster game. I went 110 receiving yards on the Vikings money line, which is plus 254 on FanDuel. You can add the anytime touchdown if you want. The odds got up to like plus 400. Jefferson hasn't been a big touchdown scorer, so I just stuck with the all over yards and the money line. I just think the Vikings are extremely likely to win this game, kind of remove needing them to lay points, just get that out of the equation so you don't have to sweat the back door. And Jefferson has 110 plus receiving yards in 4 of his last 6 games, expecting a big game against a vulnerable Colts secondary.
Okay.
He's also going to lead the league in receiving yards.
He might, but not at minus 125.
If he does, it'll be a minus 125. I mean, either he's going to or he's not. All right. What's your favorite bet of the week for week 15?
Come back to me. You go first.
All right. My favorite bet of the week. This is the largest bet for me of the entire season. Now, unfortunately, it's not quite at the same number as we have now, but I still love it at the current number. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, minus 3.5 at the Bucs. 2 teams heading in opposite directions. Bengals are 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games. The Bucs are 1-3-1 against the spread over that time. If you would dig into some of the advanced stats, it's even more staggering. Over the last 5 games, the Bengals are the number 2 overall team in terms of DVOA. The Bucs are 27th over that span, likely missing 4 members of their secondary in a game against Jamar Chase, possibly T. Higgins, and possibly Tyler Boyd. Vita Vea is in a walking boot. Tristan Wirfs, their best offensive lineman, isn't going to play. The offense just has absolutely nothing going for them. They can't do anything in the red zone if they do get there, God forbid. This is all Bengals for me here. I think they win in a rout similar to what the Niners did last week.
Yeah, lock it up. I'm joining you.
Oh God, this went so well last time.
It didn't work out the first time, but yeah, I got to join you. You laid it out right there. I just think these teams are polar opposites right now, and the Bucs aren't going to keep pace. Like the Bucs have been bad, but now you factor in all these injuries. I don't see how they hang.
I agree. I don't know what else you want me to say. All right, Bengals minus 3.5 for us. What could go wrong? All right, do we want to do look ahead lines for next week?
Yeah. I didn't have
a
ton that I felt that you had to jump on.
One jumped off the page at me, and that was it.
All right. Well, the one that I was. All right, you can go. Go ahead.
All right. We talked about the Seahawks. I don't think that's one that you want to bet now because the Seahawks are in a tough spot, and the Chiefs
total
Texans.
The total though.
If you can get real money on DraftKings, yes, the over 48.5 is great, assuming there's not like a monsoon in Kansas City or something, which we won't know right now. The one that jumped off the screen for me, cue the shocking music. Jeff's betting on the Detroit Lions under 3 points at the Carolina Panthers next week is absolutely insane. They're minus 2.5, minus 114 on FanDuel right now. I limit bet the money line. I think this one has to be over 3 against the Panthers. They're going to destroy that team and that defense. And on the Lions.
All right. The one I was looking at, and maybe it's getting carried away doing them 2 weeks in a row, but the Bengals at a flat 3 against New England.
I didn't mind that. I was looking at it. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't even want to say it, but no, I'm not going to say it.
What? You have to say it now.
Forget it.
Just say it as
I'm not going to. Well, I'm just going to say I'm not going to bet it because we're against them this week. But the Bucs at a flat 3 against the Cardinals.
I looked at it too. It does kind of look kind of short, like against Colt McCoy.
Dave's going to kill us if we bet the Bucs as favorites again.
Oh man, maybe they'll get killed this week, and that'll be like if it's under 3. I mean, there's no chance I'm not going to bet that.
Yeah. You're not betting the Raiders on the look ahead this week.
I don't even want to know who they play next week.
It's the Steelers.
I like the Steelers. I probably won't do that.
Okay, at
least not right now. I'll save that pain for next week.
All right.
You like the Lions? You gonna bet that?
I don't know. I kind of think the Jets win this week, so I'll wait.
Okay, that's fair. If you don't like the Lions this week, you probably don't need to jump on it.
But I also think the Panthers might lose, so I don't know. Might stay, but
even out.
Yeah.
All right. Anything left to say?
Nope.
All right. It's a wrap from us. Hope everyone out there has a fantastic week number 15. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at BetRightPod. Stay tuned for the ever winning prop sheet. That's probably not going to win again this week, but we'll see. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Smash the like button on YouTube. The link to the YouTube video will be in the description of the podcast. From Jeff and Rue, we are the Bet Right Sports Betting Podcast, because every time you bet with us, you bet right.